Fully costed and fully funded. So we have set out in the manifesto the immediate injection of cash we will provide for our public services. The 6,500 new teachers in our state schools paid for by closing the loophole whereby private schools don't pay VAT or business rates today. Closing the tax loopholes whereby non-doms still are not paying their fair share of tax in the country that they make home. And we will put that money into our National Health Service. So an immediate injection of cash. But what we sought at this election was a mandate to grow our economy. And that requires tough decisions and difficult conversations and fights ahead, for example, on our planning system. But we're determined to bring growth back to Britain. I talk to so many investors and businesses who say they've got money to invest, but they're choosing not to invest in Britain today because of the lack of stability, because of a planning system that is stacked against actually getting stuff built in Britain. We're going to turn that around to make Britain a great place to invest, working in partnership with business so that we can unlock those opportunities for wealth creation, for prosperity, good jobs in all parts of the country. And in the end, it's only through growing our economy that we're going to have the money that we need for our public services and also to start improving living standards for ordinary working people and pensioners as well. So that's the mandate we sought at this election, to grow the economy. And that's the work that I intend to crack on with if I have that chance as Chancellor as part of a Labour government.
Yeah, Tony Blair and Gordon Brown, they locked themselves into Kenneth Clarke's fiscal rules back in 1997 within 2 years, and they had a growing economy. Within 2 years, they raised national insurance. You're going to have to put up taxes, aren't you?
Well, that's not true. National insurance stayed at the rates it was for the first term of a Labour government. And we've made a commitment not to increase income tax, national insurance or VAT for the full term of a Labour government for a simple reason. People have gone through a massive cost of living crisis these last few years, and whacking up taxes on working people is not the way to address a cost of living crisis. That's why we are looking to grow the economy. Other countries have managed to grow their economy and as a result had money to invest in their public services whilst also keeping taxes down. The failure to grow the economy in Britain is a real dereliction of duty of the Conservative government that is on its way out. We're going to turn that around with a plan to bring stability to our economy, investment to our economy, and then reform of things like the planning system that has held back investment, held back building in Britain for far too long, and we're going to do something about that. That's what we sought a mandate for in this election, and that is the work that's going to start tomorrow.
OK, Rachel Reeves, thank you very much indeed for joining us from Leeds West. And Pudsey from her constituency there, she started off being quite coy, saying it looked like an exit poll. You couldn't be complacent about anything. But by the end of our conversation, she was saying it's up to us.
She was the
Conservatives
Chancellor.
are on their way out.
Indeed. Didn't take that long. OK, we're going to go to Rita because we're going to look at the result in Harrogate and Knaresborough.
You've preempted my line, Clive. I'm not sure that I like that because I was going to show you my new toy, which is this. We're calling it the Big Shout. Harrogate and Knaresborough, a Lib Dem gain. Of course, Lib Dem mustard yellow, and it's a Lib Dem gain from the Conservatives. Tom Gordon is the new Lib Dem MP for Harrogate and Knaresborough, Harrogate in Yorkshire, of course, and he's got a majority of 8,200 plus. And it's the change in the vote share that's always so interesting, isn't it? Because the Lib Dems have put on 10% since 2019, the Conservatives right down on 22%, and the Reform Party actually coming in on an increase of 11%. And you can see here the swing from Conservative to Liberal Democrat is 16%. So that is the Liberal Democrats' first gain of the night, their first seat of the night, Harrogate and Knaresborough for Sir Ed Davies, Liberal Democrats. Laura, Clive.
Thank you, Rita.
Wow, let's go to another big seat where some people have been predicting, expecting, or speculating about a big headline. We're going to go to our colleague Ross Atkins, who is in Norfolk, southwest Norfolk to be more precise. The seat who has been held by somebody all of us got very familiar with not so long ago, Liz Truss, her ill-fated time in Downing Street. But of course, before that, she'd been a cabinet minister for many years. But Ross Atkins, what is the mood at the count there? There's been suggestions that her seat might be in danger. Does it feel like that on the ground?
Evening, Laura. Evening, Clive. Well, as you can probably hear, there's a hive of activity behind me here in the Lynn Sport Leisure Centre in King's Lynn. We've actually got two counts going on for Northwest Norfolk and Southwest Norfolk. Southwest Norfolk being Liz Truss's constituency. She's one of the several candidates standing for election, and there's no sense that this is something which is a done deal. Talking to a number of people involved in the different parties who are watching the vote count going on, they're all noting that Reform seems to be performing well or above expectations. That doesn't mean they think Reform is going to win, but that could be part of a complex electoral equation for Liz Truss, because she's under pressure from a number of directions, from the Labour candidate, from Reform, but also from an independent candidate who was a supporter of the Conservatives, but according to one of his team, they are now consciously targeting disgruntled Tory voters. So we'll have to see how many supporters of Liz Truss from previous elections come across. And just to put this in context, both of these constituencies would have, till very recently, be considered rock solid for the Conservatives. Both the MPs standing for re-election have majorities of well over 20,000, and yet when we look at the exit poll, Northwest Norfolk is projected as being 66% likely for the Labour Party, and as for Liz Truss, her victory is described as possible. So neither of these two things are settled. In terms of the practicalities, you can probably see the stage just behind me where the results will be announced. We're expecting Northwest Norfolk at 4:30 in the morning, Southwest Norfolk, Liz Truss's constituency, at 5:30 in the morning.
Okay, Ross, thank you very much indeed. And we're going to stay out and about around the country because there is so much going on. But Chris, very briefly to you, some news expected to be another headline of the night.
The Liberal Democrats think they're taking a cabinet scalp. They think that they're going to win in Chichester, in Sussex, and beat Gillian Keegan, the Education Secretary. Here's a quote from a spokesperson: "Schools out for summer, autumn, winter and spring for Gillian Keegan," which gives you some sense of their confidence, the Liberal Democrats' confidence that they are going to beat a cabinet minister in the coming hours.
And that would be huge. She's got a majority of 19,000. So the Lib Dems very confident if they're actually saying that and giving quotes out. However much they love giving out quotes, the Liberal Democrats, they only do it when they've actually got something to say. Clive.
Interesting as well, the vote down in Basildon and Billericay, where the Tory party chairman, Richard Holden, is fighting, and he chicken run. Mm-hmm. He was parachuted in there. Catherine Biorahanga is there for us tonight. Catherine, just bring us up to date.
Yes, Clive and Laura, I was just about to tell you that the count is all over here. But just in the last few seconds, we've seen some ballot papers being brought out. Several of the counting staff are busy recounting some of the ballot papers, it seems, from where I'm standing here. This really is an indication of just how close the vote is here in Basildon and Billericay. And the reason, of course, there is a national focus, as you mentioned here, Clive, is the fact that you have the Conservative Party chairman, Richard Holden, standing in this seat. There was controversy around it. Some Conservative Party members feeling he was parachuted in. This, of course, was meant to be a safe Conservative seat for the party chairman. We've seen him here walking along the count floor, and really you can just get the sense that it's quite tense. We've heard from the Labour representatives, they're saying it's too close to call. Reform UK, their candidate, Stephen Conley, was actually speaking to the BBC. He says he's quite confident about the results. As we've seen with the exit polls, Reform has been doing well across the country. They're optimistic that that result can be repeated here. But this really is a shock for the Conservatives. They had a notional majority of over 20,000 votes. This was going to be a safe seat for the party chairman. Right now, it seems that if he does win this seat for his party, it's going to be a really tough call. So we're just going to keep an eye on this recount coming in. I was speaking to a Conservative Party official who told me that if it's only a difference of about 2,000 votes, 1,000 votes, the Conservatives might want a recount. So we'll continue to keep an eye on this vote that's coming in at Basildon and Billericay.
Okay, Catherine Bierahanga will keep an eye on that seat. Very interesting.
Very interesting. Let's go to the other side of the country. We can talk to Katie Razzle, who's in Bristol. And one of the really interesting things in Bristol, Katie, is that real fight between Thangam Debbonaire, who is the Shadow Culture Secretary, who would be very hopeful of being in a Keir Starmer cabinet, and the Greens, who have been pushing very hard. What's the mood?
Well, the mood here, I'm in the Oasis Academy. Hello, Laura. Hello, Clive. You can see Bristol East, which is one of the counts happening here, but way down the end of that corridor, that is the key one for us and for many people watching this count. That is Bristol Central, where, as you say, Thangam Debbonaire, Shadow Culture Secretary, she has a huge majority last time, 30,000 around that. But I've been in there pretty recently, having a look round as the people are counting, representatives from all the parties are watching as those votes are being counted. And I have to say, there is only one set of party representatives in that room